created this show because I want to talk about Yellowjackets season 1, and there's a lack of content out there. So here I am trying to fill a need. So this morning, my husband and I watched season 1, episode 7 of Yellowjackets. We've been obsessed with Yellowjackets ever since it started airing. And, every week I've been online. I've been in my podcast app looking for more content on Yellowjackets. There's not that many other creators out there talking about this. This is going to be my first attempt at doing a show, attempt at doing a breakdown of a television show. But I do have some background in literary analysis, so let's see how it goes. So episode 7 opens up, and we have Taissa is still chilling in a tree. That's where we ended the previous episode, and this is 2021 Taissa. She's gotten a text message from Nat and the rest of the group basically saying, it's go time, get your ass down here. And she's still chilling in the tree, so she goes, back into her house. We see her in the bathroom, scrubbing her hands. She's got dirt in her teeth, under her fingernails. It's a lot of dirt. It's all over that white sink. Presumably, her wife and her son are, I think, sleeping, right? It's nighttime. So presumably they're there, but asleep. And, as the viewer, I think we're all wondering, does Taissa know that she is the lady in the tree that Sammy's been seeing? We've seen her wake up now in this tree, and then later this episode we'll see that also happens in the 1996 timeline. So we could assume it's happened other times as well. Taissa has come to in a tree outside with dirt on her before. So you got to wonder, what does she make of that? Because it doesn't seem like she realizes that she is this, bad one that Sammy's been telling her about. Don't look at me. Now I'm going to have to cut this out.
Did you just give away the episode?
People listen to these after they've watched the episode. My husband obviously doesn't understand that people listen to the recap and analysis after they've watched the episode. This podcast contains spoilers for season 1, episode 7, and probably episodes 1 through 6 also of Yellowjackets. So back to what I was saying. Taissa seems like she's worried about Sammy, but if she knows that she's actually the lady in the tree, the bad one, then, what does she think is wrong with him? So I don't know if we're going to get answers to that this season, but I'm very curious to see what happens with the storyline between Taissa, her wife, and her son. What's going to happen there? As Taissa is, cleaning up as fast as she can, we see her get a text from Nat basically saying, hurry the fuck up. Back in 1996, we again start with Taissa. She's telling the group that she's leaving, that she's going to go and just walk south, basically trying to see what they could find. When my husband and I first started watching the show, I kept referring to the wilderness as an island because all the other shows like this, they're on an island, right? And I kept saying, oh, the women on the island, they're on the island. And he'd say, they're not on an island. They're in the forest, they're in the wilderness. It took me a while to get that through my head. They're not on an island. And as Taissa points out, they're not on an island. If they walk south long enough, they're going to get somewhere, right? I'm glad somebody finally came to this, because really, how long were we just going to chill there, assuming that there was nothing else around? So Taissa tells the group she's leaving. She wants to take some supplies with her. Van seems to be adamantly against Taissa going. Seems like Jackie and Nat do support her, but Nat also clarifies that she can't take the gun. Laura Lee asks Lottie what she thinks about this plan, and Lottie says she's just not sure. Laura Lee does ask Taissa, what if there's just nothing out there? How's that possible, Laura Lee? There's got to be something, right? Civilization does exist south of Canada. They know it. They've been there. So I'm not sure exactly, but it was an ominous way to end this scene. All right, next scene, we have Taissa cutting her hair off. I guess she feels that she's going to have a better chance of surviving in the wilderness without the extra hair. So she just starts cutting it off in chunks. At one point, she has kind of a mullet situation going on, which Van jokes that she thinks is hot. And then Van basically says that she will actually go with Taissa. She tells a story about going to, or maybe wanting to visit New York City, and she wants to go there with Taissa. And obviously, her whole story about New York City is just her way of saying she's in love with Taissa. She wants to escape the wilderness, but she wants to escape it with her. She wants Ty in her future. She wants to do things like going to New York with Ty. So this is kind of a sweet scene because even though I basically knew from the start that this was going to end badly for Van, there was tons of foreshadowing this episode that we were going to see the end of Van. And this was kind of the first hint at it. Clearly, she knows it's a bad idea to go off, but she does it anyway out of love for Taissa. And since we see Taissa in 2021, married to somebody else, married to Simone, and Van's not in the picture, I had a pretty good idea of how this was going to end. Then we cut to Travis and Nat. So Travis starts talking about how he feels like he should go with Taissa and the group that's, about to go off on their own because they might need a guy with them. Natalie pretty quickly just asks him not to go, and he immediately agrees. No pushback whatsoever. Maybe he really didn't want to go, and he just kind of felt like he had to man up or whatever. He says, not to be sexist, but I think they might need a guy. So maybe he felt obligated to at least offer, but Natalie, I guess, gives him the out. Now, there was a scene earlier, although I can't remember exactly where it fit into the episode, where Lottie finds like a bone or something. There's a pile of charred bones or other things, and there's one piece that is unburnt. Not sure exactly how, because that scene went pretty quickly, and I didn't take any notes on it. But later, Lottie gives Van that piece of bone, and she said that she had a dream about red smoke and a river of blood, and she tells Van to keep it for protection since she knows now that Van is going with Taissa. So again, the question that all the women have and all the viewers have is Lottie crazy, or does Lottie see the future? By the end of the episode, we're going to have a pretty good idea. We also see Misty is in the cabin. Through the window, she notices like Coach Ben smiling at Taissa. From Misty's perspective, maybe this looks a little flirty, but those of us who know Ben and who know Taissa, I don't think are thinking of it as flirty. But right after Misty sees this, she goes outside. She sees that Ty and her group are getting ready to leave. And then she decides to join Taissa and the other women who have decided to go. And she asks that Ben not talk her out of it. So I don't know what makes Misty decide to go. Seems kind of last minute. Maybe it has to do with the way Ben was looking at Taissa. Maybe it has to do with Misty's little savior complex that she has going on, where she wants to be the one who's responsible for saving the day, protecting the women. Maybe Misty just wants to be part of the effort to save them all. I don't know exactly, but it's the first time that she's kind of willing to actually leave Ben and let him take care of himself. And she's going to do something else. First time since they've been out there. Ben is probably very relieved to see the back of Misty. He certainly doesn't try to stop her. We continue to see the girls dividing up. So the first episode, we saw one of the girls fall into a trap. And then there was a ritual. We assume it was a cannibalistic ritual in which the other women ate that victim. So been operating under this idea that at some point, the group of women were going to kind of devolve into two rival cannibalistic tribes. And I had this idea ever since Taissa floated the possibility of going out on her own, that this is how we were going to get to the point of there being two distinct groups among the team. Maybe not, though, because we have Shauna staying back at the cabin with Jackie and many of the others. And then we have Ty and Misty and Van and some others going. And now I'm pretty sure that Shauna and Taissa do end up on the same side of whatever eventual divide takes place. Ty is the only person that Shauna has been honest with since they've been in the wilderness. She's the only one who knows, Shauna's truth. And in the future, in the 2021 timeline, it seems like they still have a pretty good relationship. So if they'd been on opposite sides of some type of, tribal battle line, I don't know if that would be the case. And also Nat stays behind. And I'm willing to bet that they all end up on the same side eventually. So now 2021, we've got Ty, Shauna, and Natalie. They're in the parking lot of the motel where Natalie is staying and trying to find out how to hide a tracking device inside a duffel bag with $50,000. They thought the $50,000 would take up more room and that would be easier to hide the device. But since that's not the case, they decide to put some other random stuff in there with the money, like literal garbage, I think. Now in 1996, we have Jackie asking Shauna, what the fuck is going on with her? So this whole time I thought that Shauna was just kind of being discreet and that Jackie didn't realize anything was up with Shauna outside of the fact that, like, oh shit, we're in the wilderness. We're probably going to die out here. But apparently Jackie has been suspicious of Shauna and the way she's been acting for a while now, even though I don't think we've seen any indicator of that. She says that she knows that Shauna's hiding something, and she tells Shauna to spill. Now, this is clearly intentional to call back to, a couple episodes ago when Taissa wrote the word spill across the garage door, and Sammy was blamed for it. And then actually her political rival was blamed for it as part of her campaigning. So there's this obsession with society wants the women to spill the truth of what happened in the woods. And the remaining Yellowjackets obviously want to conceal the truth. One, I'm wondering, how does Jackie know that something's off with Shauna? We haven't seen her being suspicious before, but I guess apparently Shauna's been doing a couple things that were suspicious to Jackie. I mean, they are best friends, but still, I didn't see it. Pretty quickly, Shauna admits that she is pregnant, that Ty figured it out, and that she attempted to fake her period. And she seems shocked that Shauna actually lost her virginity and didn't tell Jackie about it. Right away, of course, wants to know who did Shauna do it with, and Shauna lies and says it was Randy. Now, if you remember, Randy's the guy that Jackie actually wanted to set Shauna up with in the first episode, and Shauna was basically like, yeah, I'd rather die. And then we also saw Randy last week in the motel parking lot, and yeah, Randy hasn't aged well. He's clearly a huge loser who's on his, whatever, what'd he say? I'm going through another divorce with my wife. I mean, no surprise his wife can't stand him. Not a terrible idea to claim him as the one that she slept with, but I'm not so sure. And we find out later Jackie is not convinced either. But in this scene, we see Jackie tell Shauna that they will get through the pregnancy together. Now in 2021, Natalie has the money in the car with her. She drops it, in that very nostalgic bag that Shauna loves so much. Drops it in a donation bin. Taissa and Shauna are in the car waiting for Natalie. They wonder why Natalie is taking so long. Shauna jokes that she's probably scoring drugs. This prompts Taissa to admit that she's the one who's been paying for Natalie's rehab stints. This does make sense. I don't know if you guys remember back to episode 1, but that was a real bougie rehab that Natalie was in. And having gotten to know Natalie in all the episodes since then, it does not quite line up with what we know about her, that she would be in such, high-end facility. Especially, homegirl lives in a motel, right? Just didn't make sense that she would be able to afford it. So I guess Thais has been footing the bill. I wonder if Thais has been paying for some of other things of Natalie's, like the expensive car. Because again, I've been wondering, how did she have that? What kind of car was she driving? A Porsche. How did Natalie afford that Porsche? Maybe I was willing to accept the possibility that she had some money put away from sources hitherto unseen, but it seems like now maybe Taissa has been funding her for a while. Shauna's like, no, you haven't. She seems kind of disturbed by the fact that Taissa's been paying for Natalie. Maybe she even thinks Natalie has been taking advantage of Taissa. But Taissa says that it's not like she and Shauna deserve their families and their kids and all the nice things that they have, right? It was just fate. They just basically got lucky. And she says that Natalie didn't get lucky, that Natalie has no one. Only person she had was Travis, and now that he's gone, she has no one. Taissa also says, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, referring to Natalie. So this makes it seem like maybe Natalie will at some point be responsible for the women actually getting rescued, or maybe just is responsible for their survival since she's the one doing the hunting. Taissa credits Natalie with their survival in one way or another. So now, 1996, we have Taissa and her group on their own, walking through the forest. Taissa asks Van what she has around her neck. Van explains that Lottie gave her this necklace for luck, for protection. And Taissa seems kind of amused by this. She says that if it was a horror movie, Lottie would be the villain. Van says that if it was a horror movie, Taissa would be dead by now. And Taissa jokingly asks if that's because she's black, prompting Van to ask why it is that black characters are always the first ones to die in a horror movie. So in 2021, we've got Taissa, Natalie, and Shauna in the car waiting for the cash to get picked up out of the donation bin. Shauna then asks Ty what happened to her hand. And then Natalie says that she's been fucking Kevin Tan. That moment, the GPS tracker starts to beep, indicating the cash has been picked up and is on the move. And the women, they cut those conversations off and they start following. We flash back to 1996, and Natalie and Travis find themselves alone in the cabin. Natalie seems to be pretty excited that they have time to be alone. Travis is more skeptical. He's concerned that somebody's going to come back or walk in on them. Anyway, they start to hook up. Natalie says that she's so glad Travis stayed and didn't leave with Taissa's group. Initially, he seems to be happy with this admission. But then after a while, he looks pretty stressed. Doesn't seem like he's as in the mood to fool around as she is. Natalie, I think, goes down on him, but listen, he's a teenage boy, but he's not relaxing and enjoying it. Instead, he immediately sits up, he goes for the condom, and then he struggles to get it on. Natalie offers to help, explaining that condoms can be tricky, and that seems to make it a lot worse. So it seems like Travis is super insecure about the fact that Nat has sexual experience and he doesn't, and this condom comment really just kind of cements that, reminding him that while he has no experience with condoms, Nat does. Despite his obvious discomfort, they get into the missionary position. They're trying to make sex happen. Natalie says that she wants him so bad, and he tells her that she doesn't need to talk like that. So I guess he thinks that she's putting on some type of trying to say and do the sexy thing for him. But I think she's just being honest, because you could tell she's pretty hurt by his comment. I think then we could assume Travis loses his heart on right before they're about to actually seal the deal. Flustered, he leaves the room, and the scene ends with Natalie sitting up in bed looking hurt. Don't feel too bad, Natalie. He is a teenage boy. So hopefully that gets better with time, because we know that those two actually, I think, dated for a while. So good luck to them. We have Jackie and Shauna once again talking about the pregnancy and about Shauna losing her virginity. It seems at first like Jackie does mostly believe that Shauna had sex with Randy. And then Shauna mentions, I think the specific night was after some party. And Jackie then says, are you sure it was that night? Because I picked up Randy that night and he had thrown up in the pool. And at that point, she seems to try to be putting the pieces together. At what time, after she and Jeff apparently left, but before she picked up Randy, did he have time to bang Shauna and impregnate her? And you could kind of see she's doing the mental gymnastics, trying to figure that out and not finding the connection. So at that point, start to think, Shauna, you didn't pick the right night in your timeline. You left some loopholes open, and Jackie caught right onto that. Then we're back with Taissa and her group. And this group consists of Taissa, Van, Misty, Mari, and another girl whose name we don't know. They're gathered around a fire. It's nighttime. Van's telling a funny story. They're all laughing. And then the story and the laughter are cut off when we hear wolves howling in the distance. I mean, at this point, I'm practically yelling at the TV. Like, clearly, this is foreshadowing Van's later death. Poor Van. It was so obvious throughout this episode that this is going to be the last we saw of Van. And, I kept thinking, like, maybe, well, we knew she wasn't making it out of the wilderness because there's no 2021 Van equivalent. However, it just was so obvious from the beginning of this episode. All these little moments clearly foreshadowing that, she didn't really want to go with this group, but she did out of love for Taissa. And then she's enjoying herself telling this funny story, being that personality that the team loves, and it's cut off by the wolf. There's definitely symbolism in that. 2021, Misty is in the basement of her home where she has Jessica Roberts tied up. Misty says that she thinks Jessica killed Travis and that she thinks Jessica is also the one behind the blackmail. Doesn't seem like Jessica knows anything about blackmail, but she does agree that Travis was murdered. Misty then asks Jessica, how does she know about the symbol? But there's no recognition whatsoever on Jessica's end. Does not seem that Jessica actually knows about the symbol or about any blackmail. So this exchange, in addition to kind of exonerating Jessica, it also kind of leads the viewers away from a popular theory, which has been Misty's behind everything. So granted, it could just be misdirection, but, if Misty was the one behind the blackmail or the murder of Travis, would she really be asking Jessica these questions when there's nobody else around to witness it? Probably not. So it kind of exonerates both of them in a way. Jessica then admits that she was hired by Taissa to look into the remaining Yellowjacket survivors. And the purpose of this was to see how secure Taissa's campaign was against someone spilling the truth. Jessica says that she has theories about who killed Travis, but Misty will have to let her go if she wants to know more. She says that she and Misty should work together, but Misty then reminds Jessica that she has no leverage and that Misty is more than willing to make Jessica talk. Misty is a crazy bitch and is for sure planning or maybe even looking forward to torturing Jessica. Clearly, it's going to happen. In 1996, Shauna comes up to the attic. Javi is there poking around her things. She kind of, tells him to stay away from her stuff, but then she gives him her hunting knife, which he says he plans to use for an art project. That seems unlikely. So very curious what Javi's up to there. After he leaves, she hides her diary in the rafters of the attic. We flash back to 2021. We have Natalie, Sean, and Taissa in the car, tracking the truck that picked up the money. Natalie holds the driver up at gunpoint, and then a masked man runs out from the back. Natalie and Taissa chase the masked man through a retail store. They push over clothes racks, clothing displays. They run around. Sean is outside in the minivan. She's circling around the building. They all, by they all, I mean Taissa, Natalie, and the perp all exit the building. The perp gets into a car. He's about to drive off. He's in the driver's seat. Natalie gets the gun out. Kind of looks like she has a clear shot on the guy, but before she can pull the trigger, Taissa knocks her hand and the shot off target. This allows the guy to get away. Back in the car, Taissa, Shauna, and Nat are all in shock that the guy got away with a $50K, and Taissa and Shauna seem upset that Natalie was about to kill the guy. She reminds them that it's not like they haven't all done a lot worse. She also tells them that she's not doing it for them. She's doing it for Travis, and she's convinced that whoever's behind the blackmail is also behind Travis's murder. She's still convinced that there's no way Travis killed himself. In 1996, we see Ty and her group walking around. It's the next day. They're presumably still heading south. They come by a nasty-looking river. We see a shot of Misty cupping some of the murky reddish-brown water in her hands and pronouncing it unfit for drinking. Obviously, Misty. The women remember Lottie's prediction about a river of blood, and they liken the rusty brown color to a blood river. Misty throws out the idea that it could be the color from like a nearby iron source, and everybody kind of likes that explanation because it's an explanation. It's better than nothing. Then they want to get out of there, but they notice the compass is kind of going haywire. And Thaisa speculates that maybe that's also due to the iron and they should get away from the river and that hopefully the compass will start working. Van mentions that she's suspicious about Lottie's dreams being real. She said, remember what Lottie said when Laura Lee tried to fly the plane, that it didn't want him leaving? She's kind of bringing up this idea from earlier in the season that the forest has this mystical element to it, that it doesn't want people who are trapped there to leave, right? Again, we're foreshadowing Van's death because Lottie knew Van was going to need protection on this mission. That's why she gave her the bone. That's why she warned her of the blood river and the red smoke. And it's not looking good for poor sweet Van. In 2021, Adam is outside Shauna's house. He asks her, what are they doing? She's pissed. He's outside her house. Her husband or her daughter could easily be home. And she points out that he's just upset because he's not in control. Because, he was pretending to be this whole free spirit, let's just see what happens kind of guy. And now he's like, what are we? Come on. He says that he knows her. And he says something like, oh, I know you just want to burn everything down. I don't remember exactly the wording. But she seems to like it because they start kissing and she brings him into the house. The next scene is Natalie's coming home. Kevin is still in bed from the night before and she puts the gun down. It was his gun that she had with her when she wanted to, when she attempted and almost shot at the perp, and instead Thaisa was able to stop her. Then we get back to 1996. Thaisa and her group are settling down again. It's nighttime. And Van is clearly pissed because earlier when Van was trying to kind of air her grievances and her fears about maybe we should just head back, Thaisa was totally dismissive and was like, essentially, you don't have to come with me and you guys can all head back, but you're making me lose daylight and basically like deal with it or get the fuck out. So she was not willing to hear what Van had to say. Van is clearly still aggravated about that, but she offers to take first watch anyway, but Ty says no and that she'll do it. Back in 2021, we're in the basement with Misty and Jessica, where Misty is threatening to overdose Jessica's father by sending him chocolates with drugs in them. She already spoke to the father's nurse. She has the whole plan worked out. This bitch is crazy. Jessica then admits she was at Travis's house before he was killed, but he wouldn't talk to her despite that she tried to buy him some whiskey to loosen his tongue, and it didn't work. She mentions also that Travis's bank account was closed after he was killed, meaning that whoever closed his account took the money, probably also killed him. My only thought is, who would have access to closing his account after his death? Perhaps his younger brother? We all know that there's been some popular theories out there that Javi is Adam. So if Jessica's right and somebody did actually kill Travis, close out his account and take the money, I mean, they're just not going to let anybody walk into the bank and close out his account, right? So it would probably be like a family member, a dependent, a next of kin type situation. So the brother makes the most sense. But we haven't heard anything about 2021 Javi. Why? And we also know that it seems that throughout all these episodes, it's been kind of insinuated that Javi has a thing for Shauna. And there's still a lot of suspicion around the way that Adam and Shauna first met and his immediate attraction to her and interest in her. It just doesn't quite add up. So all of that kind of supports the theory that perhaps Adam is Javi and that maybe he's involved. Because really, what is the point with the whole Shauna and Adam storyline if he's not somehow involved in all this? There is no point. Okay? The subplot is there for a reason. Back in Shauna's home, where she and Adam are in her bedroom that she shares with her husband. Shauna, very risky. Jeff then gets home. There's a couple, hasty moments of, oh my God, he's home. What are we going to do? How are we going to get you out of here? There's no way out. She hides Adam in the closet. What is she thinking? I don't know. Um, Jeff walks in. Shauna pretends to be asleep. She kind of pretends to wake up. She's pretty good. She does an incredibly good job at not giving herself away, which just goes to show what a excellent liar she is, because really, there should be at least some type of like panic in her voice or something. She's pulling it off. But it's possible that Jeff is also being distracted and weird because he doesn't seem to notice. And then when he's about to open up the closet to put his clothes away, she's like, just leave it. And he just accepts that. So I don't know. Maybe he feels guilty about something. Maybe he's picking up on a little bit of her weird vibe. Maybe he even heard Adam or saw the pickup truck outside, and maybe he knows somebody's in there. I have no idea, but everybody's acting weird in this scene, except for Shauna, who's somehow amazingly pulling off the whole "my lover's in the closet" thing. Please, oh no, don't check. Okay, then we cut back to Kevin and Natalie in bed. They wake up. Kevin sees that there's something amiss. The button on the gun has been undone. So he wakes up and checks it. He asks Natalie if she messed with his gun, and she makes up a really lame excuse about taking it with her the night before to go to a convenience store and then sitting on a bench in the park and accidentally firing off a round. He's obviously pissed because every round of a police gun needs to be accounted for. He wants to know, okay, where was the bench? Where did you shoot it? He's going to go try to find this bullet. She's like, oh, I don't know. He knows that she's bullshitting. She's being super shady and obvious about it. Like, Nat, why didn't you just take a little bit of time to try to think of a backstory here? She could have easily made up a better story, but since she doesn't have a better story, I guess she just decides to insult him instead. And before he leaves, she tells him that his high school crush was cute back in the day, but now it's just pathetic. Gotta feel bad for Kevin. Part of me kind of wonders, like, in an alternate scenario, an alternate timeline, if Kevin and Natalie would have gotten together, if Natalie had never gotten stranded in the wilderness, never forged her bond with Travis, would these two have been something? Maybe. But she's just too fucked up. It's never going to happen. Back in 1996, Jackie is outside the cabin reading Shauna's diary. And it looks like she's crying. So it seems like Shauna probably wrote the actual truth in the diary, which seems like a bad idea considering she was leaving it around. It's not like there's any way to really lock it down or prevent somebody from looking at it. So it's surprising that she did actually write the truth in there, but she must have because Jackie seems pretty upset. We cut right to Ty, young Ty, 1996 timeline Ty. She's in a tree. She wakes up, or I guess we should say she's awake when she's the lady in the tree, but she comes to. There's wolves howling. She's wearing the necklace that Lottie gave Van. And I'm wondering, when did she get that? Did I miss something? Did Van give the necklace to Ty at some point? How did Ty end up with that necklace? It's meant to protect Van, and Van's not wearing it in the crucial moment. It also looks like she must have fallen asleep or gotten into her little, weird lady in the tree trance when she was supposed to be the one doing the watch, because it seems like the women on the ground below her are screaming. There's sounds of an attack going on, and the wolves probably crept up on them while they slept, meanwhile, Thaisa, who's supposed to be on the lookout, is up in the tree. She does get down onto the ground, so I got to give her a little bit of credit, because if it was me, I probably would have just stayed in the tree at that point. It's like safer up there. But she gets to the ground. The women are fending off the wolves with torches. Immediately, Ty starts screaming, "Where's Van? Where's Van?" They show her she's on her own, kind of off to the side there. She's being attacked by one of the wolves. Ty runs over. She tries to help Van. She shoots the wolf with the flare gun, which then causes the red smoke. Then she beats it to death with the tree branch, but she's too late. Amongst the red smoke of the flare gun, Van is dead on the ground. It's really sad. We flip her over and we see that there's chunks of her face like kind of slashed and ripped off. Kind of reminds me of in the first episode when Van narrowly escaped the fire in, the cabin of the airplane after the crash, when we first kind of saw her pop up out in the wilderness after she got out of the plane. She had these streaks across her face. And now, after the wolf attack, obviously it's a lot more gory, a lot more open wounds and blood, but again, it's the same streaks across her face. And also, like, holy shit, seems like Lottie actually can see the future, because we had the river of blood, we got the red smoke from the flare gun, and Van was not wearing that protective bone, and she was the one to die. The episode ends with Taissa letting out an animalistic scream of anguish. So, some of the significant moments of the 1996 timeline were when Ty and the group of her, her group of women leave. There's some weirdness with Travis and Natalie, and then the girls are attacked by the wolves. Van is killed. Van's death, it seems, is pretty much Taissa's fault. For one, she only went with Taissa out of love. Ty then would not listen to Van's concerns when she wanted to head back, or when she was concerned about Lottie's predictions or concerned about the wolves. And then finally, Ty was supposed to be the one on the lookout while the women slept, but instead she was up in the tree doing her Lady in the Tree thing. And the wolves, it seems like, were able to take the women unaware because Ty was not there looking out. Significant moments of the 2021 timeline. Basically, it's all about Nat, Shauna, and Taissa doing a terrible job to catch the blackmailer. Nat seems like she's about ready to go on her own by the end of this. Shauna is taking huge risks with Adam, despite the loyalty that we saw from Jeff in the last episode when they went to the Taylors for, I guess it was like the anniversary of Jackie's birthday or something. And we saw Jeff really stepping up and showing his loyalty to his wife. But despite that, we've got Shauna taking huge risks, risking her marriage, risking the trust that it seems like she's kind of rebuilding with Jeff to continue this affair with Adam. And then we also have Misty pretty much being willing to do anything to get information about what is going on. And my takeaway there is that it's been 2 episodes now where we have Misty kind of off on the side doing her own action. And I'm definitely ready for Misty to get back in the fold. And I think that she will in the next episode. You can't keep Misty separated from the group for this long. I think we're pretty much done. Next episode, she'll be back with the rest of the women. I miss her scenes with Nat. Those two are fun together.